You're listening to The Right Side of the Rivers, hosted by Todd McCollum and Russell Dreyer. This show tackles public issues from a Pittsburgh point of view, offering common-sense conversations, right-of-center perspectives, and a focus on the people, policies, and principles shaping Pittsburgh, Allegheny County, and Pennsylvania.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to The Right Side of the Rivers. This is the official podcast of the City of Pittsburgh Republican Committee. And I am your host and the chairman, Todd McCollum. And back with me in the co-pilot seat again is the vice chairman, Russell Dreyer. Russell, welcome back.
Great to be back.
Yeah, you were under the weather a little bit last time. You got through the Pittsburgh plague all right?
Yes.
Very good. Well, we're glad to have you back.
Good to be back in studio with you, Todd.
Bob, it's great to have you. Bob did a good job sitting in for you. Bob and Dave together, that is always entertainment, whether there's a camera around or not. But they did a great job.
Well, the Nielsen, I heard from my manager that the Nielsen ratings popped last week, so I have to step up my game.
Well,
on tonight's show. So
as always, five-star producer Missy did a great job of making everybody look good.
For sure.
And five-star producer Missy is in the house, making us look and sound great again. We had a great show with Bob and Dave. We did miss you.
No, and thanks for the kind words from everybody in house.
Yeah, absolutely. What we did miss, however, is your take on Venezuela, because I know that that's an issue that's close to your heart.
Yep.
A lot has happened since you and I were together on this seat. Why don't you take a few minutes and tell everybody why Venezuela is important to the United States' interest in.
Sure.
And if you want to share your own story, that's great
Sure.
too. But you're the resident expert on Venezuela.
Sure.
Take a few minutes.
Well, good evening, everybody. I'm glad to be back with you again. And just to kind of pick it up where we did a couple shows ago, for everybody out there listening, we need you to get involved. Contact your local committee, whether that's here in the city of Pittsburgh. You know how to find us. PGHGOP Committee at Proton Mail. That's PGHGOP Committee at Proton Mail. Or reach out to your local municipality in whatever. Reach out to your local committee in whatever municipality you may be listening from. So that's first and foremost. We need everybody out there to get involved. Operation Absolute Resolve, January 3rd, 2026, was the mission to remove the narco-terrorist Nicolas Maduro and his wife from their safe house in Venezuela. That operation happened at about 2 a.m. in the morning, Caracas time. The operation involved about 150 different military assets, helicopters, drones, aircraft, boots on the ground, so to speak. And that operation lasted 89 minutes. This was an operation that the Venezuelan people have been waiting for 27 years. And finally, the President of the United States acted in the interest of both the people of Venezuela and the people in the United States. The reason that had to happen is that essentially, just to give a little backdrop here into the situation that Venezuela is, it's basically a socialist country. Hugo Chavez took power in 1999 through a free and fair election, but then began to expropriate private business and private property, and basically turn it into a state, a socialist state. The only party that runs the country down there is the PSUV, that is the Socialist Party of Venezuela. And if you try to run against them, they're going to put you in prison. That's why one of the things that we're fighting for here post Operation Absolute Resolve is to get more than 1,000 political prisoners freed that are still being held by the regime. But just a little bit of a backdrop to the mission, to the successful mission to remove the narco-terrorist. Essentially, Venezuela had become a colony of Cuba. I know that may sound a little difficult to understand, but the Cuban security state is a very mature security state. And basically all the folks that were killed, the 35 guards or so that were killed that were guarding Nicolas Maduro, were all Cubans. So that just tells you how entrenched the Cuban security state is in the Venezuelan government. So in return for keeping that dictatorship running, in return, what the Cubans got from Venezuela is free oil. Okay.
Gotcha.
And Venezuela was also aligned with Hezbollah in Iran. China, Russia, and Iran have been in Venezuela. You know, they say, oh, the Americans are only down there because we want the oil. Well, the Chinese, the Russians, and the Iranians have been down there, and the Cubans obviously have been down there for almost 30 years taking the oil out.
Mm-hmm.
As some of our Venezuelan friends like to remind me, the Russians and those other folks weren't just down there for the arepa recipe. Okay, they were exploiting Venezuelan oil. So why that is important to our hemisphere? Venezuela, because it aligned itself with other dangerous actors, became a very destabilizing force in our hemisphere. So it makes perfect sense that the United States, that's only about 150 miles off the coast of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes perfect sense that that the United States would not want that kind of destabilizing force in our hemisphere. Now, the great news going forward for the people of Venezuela, for the United States, and for the American hemisphere, both North and South America, is that we've removed the president.
Yes.
The acting vice president is basically taking orders from us, and she has, a certain list of things that she needs to do to ensure that what happened to the president doesn't happen to her. And so again, I think folks have been critical. Why didn't Trump also remove? There's about 4 or 5 other people that are in positions of power within the regime, and of course they're wondering why Trump didn't remove them. Well, the message was sent. There are back channel communications with the acting. Who she was the vice president. Now she's basically the acting president. But the good news for Venezuela is this is we're in a transition moment here. Like I said at the top,
Mm-hmm.
They've been waiting 27 years for someone to do something, because they've tried. The people of Venezuela have tried everything they could. They had a couple elections that were stolen from them. They've been in the streets. When they were in the streets to protest those stolen elections, the repressive forces of the regime were just brutal. Live rounds, running over people in tanks, imprisoning people, and they have what's called colectivos. Now, these colectivos are basically armed gangs that are well armed. They're well armed by the government, and they ride around and terrorize. They're basically neighborhood gangs, and they ride around and terrorize people with impunity. If you're on your phone, they just grab your phone, look at your phone, and see if you have any anti-regime content on there. And if you do, you're gone. I mean, they're taking you to political prison. So there's good news ahead for the people of Venezuela. The people of Venezuela are celebrating. The people of Venezuela are very happy with the actions of President Trump. The people of Cuba are very happy with the actions of President Trump, because this is that domino is also going to fall in
Venezuela is a linchpin to in the hemisphere,
the
for
hemisphere,
sure, and South America for
in the
sure.
hemisphere. And I don't think anyone is going to dispute the vast reserves of oil, and not to mention the other natural reserves, gold, silver, aluminum, you name it, that Venezuela has. Venezuela is a very rich country with respect to oil and natural reserves.
Comparable to the United States or more.
Much more so.
Okay.
Much more so. Yeah, Venezuela. I think Venezuela and Saudi Arabia are probably 1 and 1A with respect to oil reserves. Okay. So long story short, I'm sorry that I went a little long there, but I have a lot more to say about it. Long story short, this is a great moment for the people of Venezuela, a great moment for the people of Cuba, a great moment for all the Venezuelans. About a third of the population had to leave Venezuela because of this. Just try to find a better life somewhere else. And I would like to just finish by saying, if the United States of America is in fact the king of the hemisphere,
mm-hmm.
of the North and South, Southern Hemisphere, Venezuela will be the queen. There's no doubt in my mind. This is going to be a magnificent relationship between the two countries, and there will be tremendous prosperity and liberty for the Venezuelan people in the very near future. So, yeah, thanks for letting me run on about that a little bit.
No, for sure. I know that's close to your heart. I know you haven't mentioned, and I won't go into detail, but you have firsthand information of what's going on down there, and so that's why it's so important to you. And we'll just leave it at that. And maybe we'll circle back around to it with the guest here.
Some questions.
You've done a lot of talking there. Why don't you catch your breath for a second? And you usually bring the guest in, but let me do that today here while you catch your breath. Today we have a special guest, everybody. A candidate for U.S. Congress, District 12, which encompasses all of the city of Pittsburgh. It's a large district. We wanted to have him in because he's running to eventually overtake Summer Lee and hold that seat. So let's welcome Benson Fechter. Am I saying that right?
It's Benson Fechter, but
I missed the T. I'm sorry. The bifocals don't always work as great as well they should. Benson, welcome to the right side of the rivers.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me.
No problem. Why don't you tell everybody about yourself so we can get to know you here a little bit?
Yeah, gladly. Well, as I was introduced, my name is Benson Fechter. Born and raised, or I guess I was born in Alabama briefly, but my family has been in the Pittsburgh area, South Hill specifically, for now 7 generations. So my family, my wife's family, we're all here. Pittsburgh is our home, and I'm proud to be from Pittsburgh. A bit about my background, certainly growing up in the South Hills. I graduated from Mount Lebanon High School in 2020. I went to Providence College in Rhode Island, where I got my business management and Catholic studies degree. Graduated from there in 2024. Professionally, I run a group called Legacy Paint Holdings. We own and operate subsidiary painting contractors, both across the Pittsburgh area and across the country. Our company here in Pittsburgh is based out of Sewickley, called The Proper Painter. We also have a cleaning company in the area called Penguin Clean Co. Our painting companies are spread out from New England to Michigan to Texas, Oklahoma, and eastern Pennsylvania. Work very, very closely with the contractors on everything from marketing to financial planning to human resources. And we continuing to grow, continuing to acquire contractors across the country. My motivation for getting involved in this race, and really what sort of motivated me to throw my hat in the ring here, was the Charlie Kirk assassination on September 10th of 2025. He was a monumental figure, not only for the conservative movement, but for the country writ large, and really was one of those figures that came up alongside the rise of President Trump and really the MAGA movement as a whole. And I followed him very closely from his rise, alongside characters such as Ben Shapiro, The Daily Wire, all the hosts and everything that are on that platform. And really, when he was tragically killed in September, it forced me to sort of take a step back and think on where do we go from here as a country, and what are the next steps that we want to take, and where do we want to have our values lie moving forward. Because we are not the country where somebody speaking to a group of college students gets gunned down in broad daylight simply for sharing conservative American ideals. That is not the country that we live in, and it truly felt like one of those moments where the line was crossed and there was no going back from there. And so I decided to run and to get involved in this race because of that, because of his legacy that he left in terms of young people getting involved, being active, being vocal, and running for local politics. We need a new voice and a new generation that's going to represent this city that myself and my family have called home for so long. And we know that Summer Lee is not that. We know that she is a radical leftist in a similar vein of your Ilhan Omar's, AOC's, Pramila Jayapal's of the world, certainly of that squad ilk. And that's unacceptable, right? Pittsburgh is, yes, it's a Democrat district, right? We do have about a D+8 registration here in the district, but we're not New York, we're not LA, we're not Chicago. Pittsburgh is much more so your working class, blue collar type Democrats that Summer Lee is not representative of. And so I'm eager and I'm excited to continue to run this race, to unseat her in November, and to bring actual representation back to DC from this area, in an area that's really been underrepresented for the average Pittsburgher for far too long.
So it's a big district. We know that. We know that it encompasses all of the city of Pittsburgh and into the South Hills and goes out into Westmoreland County. You want to go into more detail about the district itself?
Yeah. So the district, like you mentioned, it has the whole city center. Pretty much all of Allegheny County, Mount Lebanon is carved out of the district. Crafton's carved out of the district. A few other municipalities are as well. And then there are also a fair amount of Westmoreland County in the district as well. So certainly important for us in this race to perform well in Westmoreland County, which is relatively a given, but to outperform where we should expect to be. The better we perform in Westmoreland County reduces the burden of performing well in Allegheny County, certainly areas that we would otherwise have to do damage control in. And so all of Allegheny County minus Mount Lebanon minus Crafton, bits of Westmoreland County in there as well. And right, it certainly is a big district. It's
a big district, and you live at one end of it.
Yes.
Tell us how you see your reach into Westmoreland County. And of course, living in one end of the district isn't a disqualifier at all. But, for you to drive to the furthest other end of the district is probably over an hour and 15 minutes, I would imagine.
Yeah. And so it was actually a couple weeks back that it was a Facebook Marketplace purchase. I drove out to Greensburg to go pick something up, and it was a little bit over an hour drive for me to get from where I live in the South Hills out to the Greensburg area, which is right on the border, right, of the district. And I certainly don't think where you happen to live inside of a given congressional district is a disqualifier for running here. We have a strong ground plan and a game plan for how we're going to be doing outreach out there. And certainly it starts in the South Hills. I think the South Hills is a hugely important voting block in the district, and a voting block that is both movable and that has a large population inside of it. But certainly Westmoreland County is important. We have strong plans for being able to outperform expectations there.
Yeah, and it's the more populated areas of Westmoreland County goes out to Greensburg. If I recall correctly, it also includes Murraysville, correct? Yes. And Jeanette and North Huntington and parts, at least part of Hempfield Township as well.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So that would be some of the more populated areas of Westmoreland County. Hey, we appreciate you running. That's why we wanted to have you on the show. Russell, you have questions?
Yeah,
By all
well,
means, jump in here.
I wanted to say that, we're excited to have Benson as a candidate. Benson, you are a trend that the party needs. Obviously, your age, that demographic, but we do see a trend from younger people towards the Republican Party. You obviously mentioned Charlie Kirk was a mentor of yours, someone that you looked up to. Talk to us about possibly how you can message to voters of your demographic throughout the city and throughout the district. We do have many colleges and universities in PA 12. Talk to us a little bit about that demographic and the importance of reaching them.
Yeah, it's part of the overall campaign strategy in terms of we know, again, the challenges that we're going to face in unseating Summerlee in a year where typically Republicans underperform, right, sort of in the midterm cycle where we control the presidency of the House and the Senate. And so part of our strategy is reaching out to those populations that typically in the past wouldn't have voted for a Republican candidate, but we do believe would be able to this time around. And we saw from 2020 to 2024 the massive shift in voting, specifically amongst young people, more so specifically, I'd say, amongst young men, certainly led by guys like Charlie Kirk, Ben Shapiro, Joe Rogan, others in that space. And so looking at the district with Pitt, Carnegie Mellon, Duquesne, Point Park, Chatham, right, all the universities that encompass the area, it's certainly part of our strategy to do direct outreach to them, to be for them to be a big part of our campaign and our efforts. And specifically from the angle of, yes, I am not far removed, right, from their position, right, having graduated from college 2 years ago. And so being a part of that younger generation that is sort of getting out of college and starting to get, I guess you would say, traction in life, the two things that I think are most important to us, I would say thing number one is the affordability crisis that we've seen specifically for young people in this country. And I would say a secondary thing is the American family that goes alongside that, getting married, having kids, establishing a foundation and a home for yourself. And so for young people, we look at home ownership as a great example. Home ownership in the area, Pittsburgh, is still relatively affordable compared to other major metropolitan areas. But what I like to look at is the trends, and the trends in the area have been less than promising in terms of affordability. You go back 10 years to 2015 to afford the median home in Pittsburgh. You had to make about $29,000 a year to qualify for that mortgage, about $15 an hour. Fast forward to today, 2025, 2026 numbers. To afford that same median home in the Pittsburgh metro area, it's now $67,000 a year that you have to be making, closer to $35 an hour versus $15. And so that example is one where we look at, okay, $67,000 a year is still relatively doable, specifically for dual income households. But if that happens 10 years from now, and we're looking at homes where you have to be making $130,000, $140,000, $150,000 a year, it's going to be in a very different position. And so speaking, directly to young people on home ownership, we need to increase the supply in the area. We need to continue to decrease demand through mass deportations, as we've seen across the area and across the country. And that's how we actually fix housing. But speaking to housing, speaking to business ownership, speaking to we want to get married, have kids, but the financial reality has made it difficult for so many of us. And I think certainly for many of my peers that I graduated from high school and college with, it's a message that will resonate and a message that can resonate. And the team that we're building is certainly a younger team as well, which I think will be helpful.
Great. Well, your candidacy is a breath of fresh air. It's something that the party needs. I know, Todd, you and I tend to think maybe we're young guys, but maybe young at heart. Maybe
you think so.
Maybe young at heart, but no. It's good to have you running. I do believe that there's a very strong contingent of young people that will hopefully, your message will resonate with them, and will carry you forward during this election cycle. So glad to have you as a candidate.
For sure. You do have a family, right?
Yes.
And you are a man of faith.
Yes.
You care to?
No, absolutely.
I mean, I'm not going to hold a gun to your head, but I mean, you're free to speak here.
No, that's good. That's good. Yes, I am married. My wife and I, we've been married for a little bit over 2 years now. We got married the summer before my senior year at Providence College. And we met here in the Pittsburgh area. We were volunteering at Vacation Bible School in high school at St. Winifred's in Mount Lebanon. And so we, strong Catholic family, strong Catholic faith that both of us come from. We have a 10-month-old daughter, just turned 10 months yesterday. And so it's certainly been a joy and a true pleasure being able to raise her and bring her up in this world. And I think something that, again, a lot of young people want to do. They want to get married, want to have kids. And Charlie Kirk is, and it's now sort of in the intro reel to his show, it's get married as young as you can, have as many kids as you possibly can. And that is truly what creates responsibility for you, creates meaning, creates purpose, and truly where I think we need to get back to as a country, because young people today aren't really getting married. If they do get married, it's a whole lot later. They aren't having kids. And so it really takes, one person, one decision at a time to sort of rebuild and reshape culture. But to have that type of culture is really where our country was built upon. And if we don't see a reversion back towards that, we're going to be in a whole lot of trouble. My Catholic faith means everything to me. It informs every decision I make every single day. It's a massive part of this campaign and this movement that we're hoping to build. We have a strong team of priests from around the diocese that have sort of formed a faith council that we've put together. In fact, yesterday evening, I had a chance to sit down with our new bishop, Bishop Mark Ekman, and had a chance to meet with him. And so we're certainly hoping that is a voting bloc as well that will continue to shift to the right. We saw in 2024, for the first time forever, Catholics as a majority voted for the Republican candidate versus the Democrat candidate. Certainly another area that we believe that we can tap into and help us, right, in terms of winning this election in November.
Now, you plan on having a primary here. There are other candidates that have announced. There is a process to this whole thing. Do you want to explain the process, or would you like me to expect because petitions are coming up now, and it's important that you're going to need the right amount of signatures. Why don't you go ahead, or I can, however you want to do it, you can tell everybody about
help me fill in the gaps where I need filled in, but I'm pretty well versed, at least from what I've been told on the requirements. So signature window opens up, I believe, the 17th of February, runs through March 10th, and any candidate across the state, across the country, need 1,000 signatures to get on the primary ballot. Those 1,000 signatures have to be Republicans that are living in the district, and certainly a lot of people, right, that have to sign to get on the ballot. And we have put a whole lot of thought and planning into how we get to those 1,000 signatures. We've certainly done our fair share of going around to local committees across the district, and they all have their petition signing nights. And beyond that, we have taken a look at, knowing that we need to get to that 1,000 signature mark, at sort of pre-banking signatures. So the people that we've spoken with, both donors, supporters, volunteers, we have started to, in a sense, pre-bank those signatures, pre-qualify those people to make sure that they are valid, right, that they can sign to get myself on the ballot. And we've had a strong start to that. So that includes making phone calls, door knocking, personal networks of people that are willing to support, getting them to continue to spread the message. And we feel very confident that 1,000 signature mark will be something we will easily clear, and hopefully we'll get a whole lot more people supporting beyond that 1,000 mark.
Is there a general, have you been out door knocking yourself? And what's the general feel? Is it very early on in the process, but what's the general feel or feedback that you get from people at the doors?
I'd say very promising feedback. We've sort of started in the South Hills in terms of our door knocking, and sort of trying to do weekends. Saturdays, Sundays is the primary days that we're out there now. The weather has been less than great the last week or so in terms of getting out there and doing that. But when we have had a chance to speak with people, there's been, again, nothing but positive feedback. We've ginned up a lot of support in both donors and people that are going to be getting on board as volunteers and signing for the petition time. And it's something that I think is super important as we continue to build momentum and really build name ID, right? Whether it's myself or whoever else, is going to win this primary. Building name ID is going to be one of the most important things to do when it comes to unseating, right, an incumbent like Summerlee.
Okay. And our committee will be having hopefully a series of signing events where you can come to us at any given location. We'll announce the dates and times. I think we have one in stone so far, but then we're working on a couple others. But the petitions for every Republican candidate will be at our petition events. Yours certainly included as well. A lot of signatures are needed for a lot of spots on the ballot. And,
a lot of signatures to get
Yes,
this time around.
right.
From Stacey Garrity to our congressional candidates and even down to committee people. The most important, one of the most important
Yeah. And
cogs in the wheel.
What I wanted to tell you is because we're going to flip this to current events here, but a current event is that when I opened my mail, I did get mail today, by the way.
From letter carrier mail, is that what you're talking about?
Letter
Right?
carrier
Okay.
mail, yes. And I received my application for mail-in
Mail-in
ballot
ballot.
today. So if
We need to
you
get-
got a mail-in ballot,
We need to get hip with that.
you should be expecting a renewal from the county. Benson, you a fan, or you sort of go with the flow here of mail-in ballots?
I think mail-in ballots are one of those things that Democrats have done an extraordinary job at pursuing and chasing, and something that Republicans are finally starting to come around in terms of this needs to be a part of our electoral strategy and how we actually win elections. And so on its face, I'm not a huge fan of mail-in ballots.
Right.
I think
For
that
sure.
election day should be election day, not election season. I think there are legitimate reasons why somebody would vote absentee. For example, when I was off in Rhode Island for the 4 years that I was there, I voted absentee back, home here in Pennsylvania. And there are other legitimate reasons beyond that. But on the mail-in side, we need to get on board. If sign up for your mail-in ballot, send it in early, vote early, because the Democrats are going to play that game. And we know they're going to continue to play that game. And if we decide that we're going to simply opt out of it, out of some sort of puritanical virtue, we're going to continue to underperform. And so, like you said, if you got that letter in the mail, make sure that you get your mail-in ballot.
Well
and,
said.
We're
Well
going to
said.
be sending yours in.
What, Benson? How can people find you if they want to get involved in your campaign? What are your coordinates?
Yeah, it's bensonforpa12.com. It's FOR spelled out, and all of our socials and links and everything are on there. You can certainly go to donate, our top left-hand corner, and then to volunteers in the top right. All of our sort of policy issues and prescriptions, everything is pretty clearly laid out on the campaign site there. Instagram is Benson for Congress, and then the TikTok is Benson for PA12.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Everybody can find you now. That's great. How about we talk some current events?
Yeah.
What do you want to talk about? You want to talk about snow, or you want to talk about snow, or you want to talk about ice? Why don't we talk about snow? Why don't we talk about
I was
snow?
just going to say I was going to sort of tip my cap to your letter carrier there for getting your mail delivered today. I'm still
Well,
I'm still mail-less.
full disclosure, my street was plowed, but not by the city. Which is unfortunate, but the adjoining streets have been plowed. 2 streets away, I can see pavement.
Hey, who knew that shovel-ready jobs meant
Right. Now, look, in fairness,
meant the 412 crew.
in fairness, this is an eccentric storm.
Oh yeah.
So it's not the
Oh no, it's
it's not the weather's fault. It is a problem in preparation.
Evidently, it's no one's fault, Todd.
It's plenty of people's fault that we're not prepared and we don't have the equipment to manage something as efficiently as it could be mentioned. And now we see the cascade effect because our garbage is now going to be a week late as well. So it all comes back to what we want to.
So I think we've kind of been through these issues before, and I think we're seeing real world effects of mismanagement, to put it lightly, over the years.
Right.
And there's a lot that we could unpack about what we're living through here with this storm. But I think we got drunk. Well, I say we. I think that the city got drunk on COVID money. Did not put it into managing the fleet properly. I don't think anyone would disagree with that on either side of the aisle, and we are where we are today because of that.
Exactly, and it's not even though he was on council, when some of these problems were starting to show, it's not his fault as the mayor, and he's been out there, and we'll give him he gets a little bit of a pass, but not a complete pass in the thing. Why don't we bring Benson back? Benson, I'm sorry, your South Hills guy. How are things in the South Hills being managed out there as far as this Snowmageddon 2.0 that's out there?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that the South Hills is typically pretty good in terms of their snow removal, right from Upper St. Clair to Mount Lebanon, Bethel Park, Castle Shannon, South Park. All the roads in sort of my area have been pretty good. They did a great job in terms of pre-treating and then being out there throughout the day on Sunday and plowing the roads, and then through the day on Monday and yesterday as well. At this point, it's sort of pavement that we can see on the streets. There's no complaints there, and I really think like when we look at snow handling, there shouldn't be the disparity that we see between one area right just a couple miles south of the city, and then how the city of Pittsburgh handles their snow management. It baffles my mind how all the money that's flowing around, and we can't do something as basic as plowing the roads and letting residents get back to their daily lives. But certainly happy with how they were treated where I live.
And I think looking forward, this is going to highlight areas where the city has deficiencies, and I think if we trust that the new administration is going to be competent going forward, they're going to see where those deficiencies are and put a better plan into place. Because I don't know who needs to hear this, but Pittsburgh gets about 4 feet of snow every year. I'll say that a little bit louder for the kids in the back. Every year, Pittsburgh gets 4 feet of snow. So it's not like you don't know the snow's coming.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? So I think we just need a plan, and obviously there wasn't one. So hopefully the next time it snows like this, which it probably will, there will be a plan.
Well, plan's good too, but you need the tools to implement the plan. It seems like the city even has the manpower to handle it, but not the logistic equipment to handle it as well, or it's breaking down too easily.
Well, we've heard this story many times that approximately 40% of the fleet is not operational. Now, we knew that before the storm hit. So that raises a few questions about why still only 40% of the fleet
was in place to begin with.
You'd think we could cut that down to maybe only 20% of the fleet if we knew in the summer there was that 40% of the fleet was having issues. You'd think because we know it snows every year in Pittsburgh, Todd.
Right.
You'd think there'd been a plan in place to get those vehicles service ready. But hey, it is what it is.
So, from someone who manages a business perspective here, how do you see this with government? Let's start with the local government first, and then moving on up to county, state, and federal government here. How do you see what's going on here from a business owner perspective?
Yeah, and I mean, if we were to look at something like snow management through the lens of the business world and how private businesses handle it, all the private businesses had their parking lots plowed, the churches had their parking lots plowed. What was handled very, very well. And really, it's just mismanagement, right? It's looking at the fleet, for example. I think what Corey O'Connor said, that 37 trucks on that first night had to sort of be put into the shop because they weren't working and had to declare a state of emergency to hire private independent contractors to come in. And they knew that going in, right? It wasn't some sort of surprise. And as a business owner, right, if you know that, right, 37 out of the 50 trucks are going to be non-operational, then you're going to make plans for that well in advance of the actual storm hitting. And so I think when we look at what happens next in terms of really government management of things from storms to maintenance on roads and bridges and things of that sort, adopting the sort of private enterprise approach is always going to make most sense, right? People can see it and they can feel it. And it's really most obvious in storms like this where the local governments that do it well are glaringly obvious compared to the local governments that don't do it well. And then beyond that, right, seeing how the businesses handle their storm management versus how the city has sort of botched, right, this storm.
Right. And certainly you have to manage all of your assets as a business person. You have to manage your trucks so that the paint gets to where it needs to be. Your manpower needs to gets to where it needs to be. You're able to manage this, but somehow that escapes the people that we have elected of late completely.
Right. If half of my trucks were down, I certainly wouldn't be scheduling jobs.
Right.
Assuming that those trucks were going to be on those job sites. So it's just something that you have one role for government because there's no competition in the government space, whereas in the private sector, competition breeds better everything, right? Better for the consumer, better for the business, better for the employees. Mm-hmm. And adopting that mindset and bringing it to the public sector is really where we can start to see a shift in how these things are managed moving forward.
That was well said.
Yeah. Good.
I know you wanted to talk about snow and ice. What ice were you talking about?
No, well, you know what ice we're talking about, but we can let's stay with the snow.
Okay. It's going to melt someday.
Someday, that's right. Yeah, we have a secret weapon. It's called July. Your state roads have been good. Probably a little bit better management from PennDOT than we see from some of the local municipalities for sure.
Yeah.
So let's move this along here. Let's get to the federal government and talk about how you see your business experience applying into Congressional District 12.
Yeah, and I think it was even mentioned, I believe it was today or yesterday, by Governor Shapiro talking about the bipartisan infrastructure bill that was passed during the Biden term, and how those dollars really have not poured into the state, have not actually been realized in the state. And that infrastructure bill and infrastructure in general is typically popular on a bipartisan level, but so often we end up sort of earmarking billions and billions of dollars towards projects that the dollars never quite end up getting there, or they get sort of burned through in the process. And so really when we look at how the federal government can best help Pennsylvania's District 12, it is doing it in a way that empowers from the bottom up, right? Looks at what can we do from a local level first and how can we be most efficient on a local level and go up from there. Politics is best practice and best done when it is neighbors looking out for neighbors versus neighbors trying to call Summer Lee and see what's going on in D.C. so that money can get sent back to the district and all the hands that are in that cookie jar on the way down, and trying to get as local as we can with that. Beyond that, there are certainly things that we can do more efficiently in terms of dollars flowing into the district. And infrastructure certainly being one of them, right? We know how much work needs to get done on the bridges. I think the recent assessment was $500 million of work that needs done on our area's bridges, and that money hasn't flowed from what was promised during the Biden bipartisan infrastructure bill. And so, actually making sure that dollars go where they're supposed to go. I think continuing the whole DOGE idea of weeding out and getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse inside of the federal government to make sure that, as we look at with charities, right, if you donate $1, how much of that dollar goes to the actual issue, and you want to see a high amount there. Our tax dollars should be going to the issues that actually matter, not towards bloated bureaucracy, not towards middlemen that are taking pieces out of the pie on the way down. It should be as much as we can. Every dollar that is allocated towards something like infrastructure, as much of that needs to actually go towards fixing our roads and bridges and things that actually make a country and make a city work, especially a city like this with the intensive infrastructure needs that we have.
And we know that there's no shortage of money. When these things want and need to be done, they can be done. Again, calling balls and strikes as I try to do. Let's remember that Governor Shapiro had a bridge collapse or a fire as well on the eastern side of the state, and that bridge was redone within 6 months, 6 months to 8 months. We have a bridge here in Oakland that has been down for 2 years now, under an abundance of caution. Route 30. Several years ago, slipped into Turtle Creek or East Pittsburgh, and that was rebuilt again, likewise in 6 months. These projects can be done. The money's there. It's just, do we have the people pushing forward to get the jobs done and prioritize the right thing?
Right. You need the political, when there is political willpower, things can get done and do get done quickly. I think beyond Pennsylvania, a great example of that is how Ron DeSantis has looked at storm management in the state of Florida, where you have the hurricanes and that roll through there, and he gets bridges up in a matter of days and weeks, not months and years. So these things can be done and are being done well and properly in other places throughout the country. We need to take a page out of the DeSantis playbook, for example, in terms of how he handles infrastructure in his state, and apply that here, because certainly it would be working out a whole lot better than the way that local leadership and the state has handled Pittsburgh infrastructure.
Yeah. Well, let's.
Good stuff.
So we have an issue in Minnesota here. Things are out of control. Incidents of attacks on our federal workers. Why don't I just give you the floor and go ahead and throw your thoughts out there about what you're seeing in Minnesota to start with, and then we'll reel it back in here to Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that sounds good. President Trump was elected with a pretty clear and strong mandate to deport the illegals that are in this country. People came out in droves to support him and won the popular vote really on that basis. And so we have a duty and a responsibility, and he has a duty and responsibility to enforce the law, to continue to deport every single illegal that is in this country. And ICE is in all 50 states, right? They are in red states and blue states, and red cities and blue cities. And it just so happens that Minneapolis is the place, just as it was in 2020 with the George Floyd riots, that seems to be where all this chaos is happening. You have Governor Walz, who has been throwing up roadblock after roadblock and really has been inciting a lot of the violence that we are seeing in his state. in terms of cooling down the temperature. He has done anything but. In fact, today he just said that if he could, he would physically assault and beat up J.D. Vance, our vice president. You have Mayor Jacob Fry, who, as we remember in 2020, is willing to bend the knee and say that law enforcement doesn't matter and that we can just have a lawless city. And we're seeing more of the same right there in Minnesota right now. And all of those things are true. We need to continue to deport, and that Minnesota and Minneapolis has been a lawless nightmare from Governor Walz to the Attorney General in the state to Jacob Fry.
And if I could just add on to that, the Trump immigration message, it wasn't anything new. There were two very popular Democrat presidents who basically ran on the identical message of border security and immigration enforcement, and that is most recently Barack Obama and then Bill Clinton. They both had the same. They virtually had the same message as Trump. So my point is, the American people, whether you're Republican or Democrat, that is a message that is acceptable to the majority of Americans. I don't think there would be any dispute.
It should be.
Well, I don't think. Well, I think the fact that we've had two very popular Democrat presidents run on that same immigration stance as a Republican as Trump, I think proves the point that is sort of a common sense immigration platform. So
and polling continues to show that Americans broadly support continuing the deportations of every single person that is here illegally in this country. That is still a popular issue amongst the American people. Now, in terms of ICE's handling of the situation in Minneapolis, there are definitely things that could have been handled better. For example, Kristi Noem immediately coming out and calling both Renee Good and Alex Preddy domestic terrorists, simply from the evidence that we see is not true. Right? They were people that were there as agitators, probably shouldn't have been there in the first place. The Good situation, right, obviously should not have directed her car towards a law enforcement officer and pressed down the gas. She does that, it has consequences, right? With the second situation, clearly shouldn't have been showing up as an agitator, obstructing law enforcement with a firearm on him, and not disclosing that, right, to officers as he should have. Those things are all true, but at the same time, this is an information war and it's an information battle that we are fighting. And public perception right now is starting to shift pretty strongly towards not being supportive of the broader mission. And the answer isn't what the Democrats think. We're going to, as Summer Lee has said, we need to abolish ICE, for example. Clearly, that can't be the solution to this. But I am pleased with Tom Homan being sent into Minnesota to sort of handle the situation and calm down the situation. As you mentioned with President Obama, Tom Homan was awarded a medal under the Obama administration and was seen as a very upstanding and good person. I don't know why that perception has changed. I think it's squarely because we have President Trump in office versus President Obama. But really, it's a Minnesota problem. It's a Minneapolis problem. And I think if President Trump does not come out of this in a strong position, if he is unable to quell the riots and quell the unrest that we see in Minneapolis, he's sort of being given a chance to do what he should have done in 2020, right? There are a lot of things we can point at and say that weren't properly done during the 2020 riots that summer, and a lot of it was politically motivated in terms of not wanting to ruffle any feathers and all the COVID and BLM stuff that was going on this summer. We have a chance to finally right those wrongs and do what we should do, which is calm things down, reestablish law and order, and continue to allow ICE to do what they need to do. And Governor Walz needs to start cooperating, right, as so many other governors have across the country.
And Todd, you took a great sort of perspective from 30,000 feet, and you said, look, Minneapolis is a blueprint for what could happen here in Pittsburgh. And I know that just recently we did have sort of a movement here in the county to not work with ICE. So
Right.
hopefully, kind of building upon what you were thinking about what can go wrong. Hopefully here in Pittsburgh and Allegheny County, we can make sure that those tragic events do not occur here locally.
So let's tie a couple things together here, because you mentioned that this was, this is a Minnesota problem. Yes, this is happening in Minnesota because Minnesota has a leadership problem. And, based on what you've said about what happened in 2020 and what happening now, the only difference is that it was local law enforcement versus federal law enforcement. They have been allowed to carry on, and if we're going to say peacefully protest, but that mob mentality has been allowed to go on through different events under different circumstances, and it only happens in that state. Yeah, it happens to a lesser extent in other places, but right now that is ground zero. So it is a leadership problem that the leaders don't want to tell these people enough is enough. Go home. And, you can't disrespect our city and our values by carrying on like that. Now, in reference to what you said and what we sent out to the press was and asked for a stand in leadership. And that's what Minnesota needs as well, as a stand in leadership. Why our politicians or the Democrat Party or whoever it is, want to take what they have an opportunity to at least have one hand on the wheel and guide how some of these things would happen should it precipitate. Obviously, Minnesota had no plan to, based on what would happen if the first shooting incident happened. Well, you think they would have got on board and said, hey, if this happens again, let's have a plan. Let's have some cooperation talk here. And it appears that didn't happen because the second situation only was worse. And then, the governor and the mayor say, oh, we have enough people to secure the scene, but we're pulling out because we're afraid.
Well,
Which is it?
Can you walk us through a little bit? I know that a statement to the press went out today on behalf of you and the City of Pittsburgh Republican Committee. I believe your focus was on the chaos and the tragedy in Minneapolis, and you brought it home made it a hometown issue and said, look, we have the NFL draft coming up here soon. Let's get things
right. We want to work with Homeland Security because their presence is going to be needed here in the city of Pittsburgh. We are asking the mayor or the county executive to take a leadership position and go and at least have a conversation with ICE instead of just throwing these blind roadblocks up of we're not working with you and we're really not working with you. And you can see that the chaos had happened, and it just puts people in jeopardy and emboldens the other side.
Well, and let's be honest. I think, our neighbors, our family, doesn't matter what side of the political aisle you're on. I mean, I think everyone's a good person. And I do believe that people that are impeding law enforcement operations feel like they are doing the moral and the right thing. And I believe that is because leadership is putting out a bit of mixed messages on what you can and cannot do. That's my take on it.
Well, I would say that some time ago, Sean Hannity wrote a book about evil existing in the world, and I do think that most people are good at heart, but there is an evil element, and part of this this ICE situation, the Minnesota situation, is based on people who are just out to create anarchy, create chaos, don't want to abide by laws. Your prospective opponent is she's an abolitionist to everything. She would drive a bulldozer through the Allegheny County Jail if she could. Go ahead, Benson. Your thoughts?
It's really call it a propaganda machine that has been working tirelessly really since Trump took office now a little bit over a year ago. I had the chance to go down when No Kings 2.0 happened this past October, downtown Pittsburgh. And I went down there and I had my Make America Great Again hat on. And we started talking with people. And there was one particular conversation that I had that on social media has north of 200,000 views across the different platforms with a guy that was wearing a shirt that said ICE equals the Gestapo, right? And we were talking with people throughout, and they were convinced that ICE was ripping people out of cars, just normal American citizens, that they were kidnapping children, that people had to constantly be fearing about ICE when it couldn't be further from the truth. I'm not worried about ICE coming and doing anything to me or shooting me, and I'm sure you two aren't worried about that either. And the reason that that's not the case is because we're not going to go disrupt law enforcement, right? If you look at it, it's really comically easy to not get shot by ICE and to not get shot by police, right? You do the basic things, and you can even show up to a protest. We went also to the ICE Out for Good protest that was here, a couple weeks back, and Summer Lee was actually down there.
And at the south side, was it?
South side, yeah. It was quite cold, but we were down there, and I'd say probably a few hundred people were there. And people are mad. They're very upset. They think that ICE, like I said, is the Gestapo. They've been compared to slave catchers. It's a true propaganda machine that's working. And if you look at the statistics, again, we are deporting people, and there are over 1 million standing final deportation orders that ICE is fulfilling. But beyond that, I mean, the majority of the illegals that are being deported have serious prior criminal convictions as well, beyond coming into the country illegally. And you have people out of a sense of some sort of secular virtue thinking that they are going to be the heroes of the resistance, and that they're going to be the ones that are going to stop ICE. And some of the comments even about, Governor Walz saying that this is like the Anne Frank story, as if that couldn't be further from the truth. And it's an information war and an information battle that I think, quite frankly, we are losing right now, but we need to sort of reframe it and reframe the conversation around, look at all the good that has come out of ICE and their efforts. Look at the 650,000 illegals that were deported last year, and the 2.5 million people, 1.9 that self-deported. Those 1.9 million people that self-deported took the right choice, right? They were given $1,000 and a plane ticket to leave the country. And the people that are currently here and that are currently still in the country still have that option available to them. And I would certainly encourage them to take that option versus continuing to foment just this chaos that we've been seeing.
And that program is vastly underreported. The self-deport.
That's what we know, right? The 1.9 is what we know.
Yeah, that's vastly underreported that the program even exists, in my opinion. I'm sorry if I stepped in.
No, you're fine. And on the ICE Out for Good point, like in Pittsburgh, and it was ridiculous last week too, right? The protest that we saw that took over the Target in East Liberty, as if anything productive was going to come out of that whole charade. Wow. And so, thankfully, I mean, in terms of what we've seen in Pittsburgh, it has been limited to your diehard, call them leftists, that are out in the streets and that are protesting. But we'll see. I mean, as the weather warms up and we get into spring and summer, God forbid it turns into what we saw in 2020 right across the country. But right. I certainly wouldn't put it past the powers that be on the left, funded largely by characters such as George Soros, to continue to foment this chaos that we saw in 2020, that similar playbook is starting to unroll here in 26. So
we're coming up on where we're going to have the continuing resolution is going to come to an end here. Why don't your thoughts on how you see that play out is from an outsider?
Yeah.
Trying to be on the inside.
It's crazy that we're having this conversation again right on the heels of the longest government shutdown that we've had. And really, it is, again, propaganda that's being pushed. You look at the characters that have said that we need to have a government shutdown over not giving a single dollar to the Department of Homeland Security or to ICE. They've already been funded through the big, beautiful bill that passed last summer. And so this grandstanding that the Democrats are trying to have happen again is just as false as the grandstanding that they had happen this past fall in the latest government shutdown. And so I think Republicans need to continue to hold the line and to stay strong and to not bend the knee. We have seen some Republicans sort of take a step back in terms of looking at how we move forward from here. But this is an opportunity and a moment to double down and to stay strong and to not get weak-kneed as so many Republicans have tended to do, especially in years like this year when everybody's thinking towards November and trying to protect their seat. The way you protect your seat is by fulfilling the mandate that you were voted in to serve. And that mandate is to continue to fund ICE, fund DHS, keep the government open. Nobody benefits from a government shutdown, and we saw that the last time around. And so it would be a fool's errand if the Democrats attempt to do this again over two shootings in Minneapolis, where two people in what appeared to be really two justified shootings. Is that what we're going to shut the government down over and play our grandstanding games with? I don't think it should be, but with the way the media narrative has been spun, I certainly wouldn't be surprised if we at least see a partial government shutdown this coming
And
week.
I think how that there's a spotlight on Pittsburgh right now with that government shutdown looming, because we have two great senators, don't we?
We do.
And I really appreciate how both of those guys, who aren't from the same party, obviously, find ways to work together. But I think we could technically say that both of our, well, obviously Dave McCormick being from Pittsburgh, but Braddock isn't too far outside the metro area. So we have two senators from Pittsburgh who are showing the rest of the country how to work together. But there is definitely going to be a spotlight on those two senators and how they vote in this with this government shutdown.
For sure. And we as a region have a lot to gain or lose by this vote because of what is this the draft coming in and this economic savior that's coming in to save us being the draft and all the revenue it's going to create out of it. And my concern is that the government not being funded somehow precipitates into security concerns here in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. I mean, it certainly could be a concern at any time that you have an event like the NFL draft coming in where they're expecting hundreds of thousands, if not north of 1 million people coming into the city. There is a lot of planning and security risk planning that goes into that. And so given that we're here at the end of January and that is just a few short months away, obviously any prolonged government shutdown and prolonged pause on that planning will cause officials and people to have to rush through things that otherwise would naturally be done in a timely manner. And so would certainly take the John Fetterman playbook in terms of nothing good, again, comes out of the government shutdown. We saw that last time in terms of what the Democrats were supposedly fighting for. Nothing came out of that. It was sort of what I think largely an electoral thing, right? They reopened the government right after they got Mamdani and Spanberger and Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey. And so we'll see what happens here. But I certainly hope the Democrats do the right thing and don't play games, right, over these events.
Well, and we certainly hope that cooler heads prevail and that local leaders speak to the public with clarity and so everybody knows.
Yeah, our local leaders are allowed to lead, show leadership, and go against the grain a little bit as well.
Well, and I would say, just be clear about what we are and aren't doing. That's my ask.
Well, with that,
This is show 15.
Yeah, for sure. Benson, we appreciate you coming on. I don't know if we'll get you back on before the primary or not, but you are on the list, man. We want you to stay involved with the party no matter what happens, and we do wish the best of luck to you. We will be seeing you around.
We'll be seeing more of Benson, no doubt.
Yeah, you'll be at our meeting
Yes.
coming up for sure. So if you want to see Benson in person, either come to one of our signing events or our meeting on Monday. All the links on how to do that, Missy will put in the comments below here.
Show 15.
Great show, man. Good to have you back in the co-pilot seat.
Benson, great to have you in.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Hey, we have some social media stuff too. And,
Sure.
And hat tip to the committee working our social medias because we are
our social media
we are killing
team.
it.
Our social media team has been
On
let's
fire.
say in fuego,
On fire.
to use a term that the cool kids use.
Yes.
But anyway, if you'd like to follow our in fuego social media, PGH GOP committee. That's PGH GOP committee on X, Facebook, and the Gram. And it's been great to have you. It's been great to be back with you after a week off here, ladies and gentlemen. But I implore you again, please get involved with your local committees. Reach out to us, and we can redirect you to your local committee. So thank you very much.
Yes, and if you live in the city of Pittsburgh, we are looking for help, man. We need reinforcements, and we appreciate anybody that wants to put their hand in the pile. My friend, it's always a pleasure to be with you. You're the best. Benson, once again, thanks for everything. And we're going to wrap it up. We'll see you in 2 weeks for my co-host, Russell Dreyer, for five-star producer, Missy, from Ike the Elephant. My name's Todd McCollum. I am the chairman of the City of Pittsburgh Republican Committee. This is the official podcast of said committee, and we call it The Right Side of the Rivers. We'll see you in 2 weeks, everybody. Be well.
Thanks for tuning in to The Right Side of the Rivers. We appreciate you spending your time with us as we talk about the issues that matter to Pittsburgh, Allegheny County, and beyond. Be sure to visit us online at pittsburghrepublicans.com for more updates, events, and ways to get involved. And don't forget to follow us on social media. We're on X, Facebook, and Instagram at PGHGOP Committee. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and stay on the right side of the rivers.